Hey Scrappy Peeps, Suzanna here today to share with you a new two-page layout. So this is the sketch that I created for you to use yourselves based on this particular layout. The layout was created using a kit from the Scraproom. So this is the Simple Vintage Ancestry collection from Simple Stories. It's in the January collection. So that there on the left is a digital cut file from Peartree. It was the free one this month, this week, although today is a new free cut file. Every Wednesday there's new free files, so that will no longer be free, but you can get it from the shop. I have actually reversed it, so the flowers were on the right hand side and I'm using it with the flowers on the left hand side. So I have, pardon my big old head there, I have 3 4x6 photos, or 6 tall, 4 wide, so 6x4, and then I have I actually have 4 4x3 photos and 1 square photo, and I'm to be honest with you, I think this is a 3x3 square. And while this collection is very vintage, and it actually has Ancestry in the name, and the embellishments that I got, a lot of them are actually related to family, I loved the colors and how they went with this outdoor theme, and I liked the way that it really popped the blue sky. So I am going to find a way to negotiate around the embellishments or incorporate particular embellishments to build them into my page there. So I cut the file out of cardstock. That is not part of the kit. And then I backed it with one of the papers that came in the kit. So I actually literally just cut the innard in it. And the kit comes with 2 pieces of cardstock. So it's that craft cardstock, which I'm going to use as the background. And what I'm toying with here is the placement of how I'm going to use these pattern papers in the background. I feel like I always use headers, although they're not really headers. I always feel like I bookend double page layouts, and I have pattern papers on the right hand side and the left hand side. And I want to veer away from that and challenge myself to do something different. So I thought I'd use layers just like I've got here, and instead of having them on the bookends, so the right hand edge and the left hand edge, I just have it run all the way across the page to kind of provide a ground for those photos there so that they're not just floating. And I'm literally winging it here as I go. I'm trying very hard to not look at the back side of the papers into all of those cards that I'm cutting, other than the one that I know that I want. I'm going to save one of the 4x4 squares as a journal spot for the page. And so that particular one with the butterflies there, I know, but the rest I know I want that plaid there. I tend to struggle with these kinds of collections because I am very much a white-based scrapper, and there is no white in this. The white that is there is pretty much me adding white in. So I have cut strips using a old Fisker's punch. The lace, I just like the way that the lace A added some white, and then B added a shot of brightness to the aged papers. I wish I had stitched in underneath that white there, and I could theoretically go in and do that now, but really it's just a small detail and it's really not all of that important. There's just a little bit missing here, and so I'm going to go ahead and just cut off that tiny bit so that it completes the lace border, so that it consistently goes all the way across the page, across that join there. Here's my scrappy assistant. This is Luna, one of the kittens. She felt that I needed some supervising today, so she's just kind of checking things out, making sure everything's going according to plan there. So I know this is going to go at the bottom of the page. I've cut off a little bit more than what I actually ended up needing. I could have moved it up the page, but the reason I liked it where it was is if I had used any more, then that plaid would not be all that visible underneath the photos on the right hand side. The photos tend to be more concentrated, the block of photos to that right hand side. So in incorporating this cut file, I could have pulled that middle photo of my husband at the top of the rocks on top, but I felt like I wanted to provide the consistency of that die cut. Parts of it covered were fine, especially by that photo of the 2 of us, but then I wanted that little bit peeking out, and it didn't matter that it covered the photo there. So I want to slide this over. I have the ability to cut that left hand 6x4 photo, and I like to do that when I'm creating 2-page layouts, because that way you can see that the left hand page ties into the right hand page, especially now that I no longer have the We Are Memory Keepers 2-page double spread page protectors, so that hold the 2 pages kissing, so is what I like to say, so touching each other. So now they're separated by the rings in my ring binder, and so that is a way of visually tying the 2 pages together for me. So I've committed to the placement of all of these things for the most part, because when I adhere things, they never end up being exactly as I lay them out. So I'm going to go ahead and start placing things down now. The photos didn't have perfect white borders around them, so I just trimmed them down a little bit. And I'm going to put this photo first because it is the center photo of the 2, and it's easier to gauge spacing around that particular photo. I have started using my ThermoWeb Gina K double-sided tape for these longer strips. I just find it's better value for money, and then also, especially when I have these layers that I'm building, that the page is less likely to separate. So just using my scissors to trim this edge off. Typically I would like to do this with my paper trimmer, but you see, I didn't really want to pull them apart because everything was lined up correctly, and it's not hard to stick them back together again. It's so much easier to do when everything is connected. So I do end up folding it in half and running it through the trimmer there so that I have even borders at the bottom of the page there. Again, when you're creating 2 pages, I like to have that unity that flows from the left page to the right hand side page. So for figuring out alignment here, it was much easier to get the blue backing of that die cut Peartree Cutfiles file down first and then put the more detailed file down after it. So I don't quite like the way that is spaced, and so I'm going to shift it over and go from there. So I actually have 2 photos that I don't end up using. One is a screenshot on my phone, and it is the path that we hiked that also has the mileage and the elevation. But I'm not sure if you saw at the beginning, but I also showed you a 9x12 photo, and that is just the view of the rocks, the Humpback rocks. And so I am going to have actually a 3rd page in this, and I think what I'm going to do, there's very minimal journaling on this. So what I want to do, my intent, is that I will probably leave the front photo and put like a 3x4 card on it or something along with that photo that is the screenshot that shows how we did the hike. And then I think I'm going to just do a fancy journaling page on the back of that 9x12 that will tell a more detailed story. So this is my ThermoWeb Ultra Bond. I really like this for fine application with the metal tip on it. It doesn't dry too quickly, i.e. you have plenty of time to put all of that liquid adhesive on and then adhere it down. It does dry clear, which is perfect because sometimes adhesive always ends up where you don't want it to go, right? And I toyed with the idea of backing these flowers, but I actually really like them as they are. There's so much color in this already that to have backed them, actually they would have been competing with the cardstock underneath. So that light color underneath the dark color was perfect. So you can see we have a very organized cluster of photos on the right hand side that are following more of a grid, and then a more looser interpretation with the photos on an angle on that left hand side, on the left hand side of that cut file there. And it works. There's two different sort of thought processes, but I like the way that it draws your eye across the page and provides just that little bit of looseness like the outdoors there. So what I toyed with here was, am I going to line the photos up so that the bottoms of the two photos match, or that the tops of the photos match? And I went with lining up at the bottom because otherwise it created an odd shape over there on the left-hand side. And with the looseness of the random photos on the left, it needed that structure on the right-hand side there. So with the kit, you get an assortment of embellishments. That's what I love about my Scraproom kits, is the assortment. And so I'm going to dive into both the add-ons, which I have the foam stickers there, and then there is actually the foam stickers are what came with the kit, along with some other embellishments, the bits and pieces, and then the sheet of stickers came with the add-on. So that sheet of stickers I've got there on the right hand side, and it says we are family, which we are family, but it's not all of our family, but I just left it because I just liked the way that that book ended the photos on the left hand side there and gave me somewhere to nestle some other goodies. I rifled through to try and find other embellishments that didn't have too much family related theme on them. These are some really, really old thickers from my stash. And look, I am using my T-square and I'm using it without throwing it across the room. This is a big accomplishment. If you know me, I hate this T-square. We are not friends, but I really wanted to line up the top of these letters with the top of the photos. Again, for some consistency in the layout there and to provide that visual flow to the layout, and so I am using that good old T-square, and it is working for me. I think the problem with this particular T-square is it isn't straight, and so I do have to hold it down, and I think that provides some room for angst for me with that thing. We don't have the best relationship, but I used it and I used it successfully, so pat on the back for me. Yay me. I can't remember all of what this says, but I just wanted the together. The rest of it didn't flow, so that I have a subtitle to my layout. The title is going to be Humpback Rocks. That's what we hiked. And then the subtitle is Love Being Together, or it could have gone the other way around. Either way, there's two big sort of collections of words there. This bird, I am going to nestle there, but I will move him off screen. There's quite a bit of activity that happens off screen for me. Just I get a different perspective when I'm not filming, and I'm not worrying about getting my big old head in there. So that bird does move, and it goes up to the top right hand side of the heart there, and I like the way it's just a splattering of color that fills in that space and ties everything together. So I'm going to pop the together up on foam, just because that love is already on foam, and so again adding some dimension to the page and helps to balance out the different places where I have things on foam as well. And that is in yellow. So I like the way that you've got all of the colors, the red in the love, the blue in the background, and then that yellow just sort of ties everything nicely together in that little spot there. This label is not from the kit. It is a really old pink paisley. I can't remember the name of the collection, but I have these labels, and I love them for when I'm not using my LA Studio labels, for just putting dates, or sometimes I just like a shot of white and I leave the labels more as decoration, ephemera to the page, as I've done here. So I like the way that the white of that label contrasts the white of the journaling spot up above, and it just gives your eye that kind of pause and that break without having to read it. So that up there is a National State Park. It's a stamp that I actually stamped and then fussy cut around the edges. And it was actually the main inspiration for this page. I felt like the green, however, didn't really tie into the green that is in that plaid. And so it stood out like a sore thumb, and I end up abandoning it, much to my dismay. So I'm going to complete the title with these thickers. They're foam. Again, they are really old, but I felt that the yellow matched the yellow in the plaid as well. And I felt like I needed just a smidge more yellow to draw everything together there. I will journal off camera because I never journal on camera. The other thing that I am going to do off camera is I have some stickers. I got a page of the bits and pieces, I think it was, or the sticker sheet, the 5.5 by 8 sticker sheet. And the stickers that I got all had family names, so sister, mother, brother, and there was one word and it says together, and so I popped that up on some foam at the top on the space around the frame of that journaling spot, that square on that left hand side there. So I'm going to do that off camera. And now I have some really old enamel dots, and again I just want to put a splash of color in around these borders to tie everything together, and that, my friends, will wrap up the layout. I have created a sketch, so you can definitely feel free to create with that if that is something that inspires you. If you have any questions about my process or the Scraproom Kit Club, please don't hesitate to leave that in the box down below, and I will do my best to get back to you. Enjoy the close-ups. Thanks for stopping in today. I hope you're doing well. Take care.